The story of democracy, the struggle of the many to escape the domination of the few. We're going to look at the history, the development of democracy from a longer evolutionary perspective, and as well we'll look at it from an institutional perspective with regard to the practices of democracy. Here we have Pericles addressing his fellow citizens in the Agora. As you can see from the caption, the word democracy arises from the root demos, meaning people, and kratia, meaning power. This is a significant development in human civilization, for it is the first time we have records of the people, the many, wielding political power for their own benefit. The rise of democracy also corresponds to the golden age of Athens. It is during this time that the intellectual foundations of Western civilization are to be found. Such giants of classic philosophy, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, leave their legacy. In literature, Homer gives us his classics, the Odyssey and the Iliad. And if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the painting, you can see Pythagoras teaching his theorems. Importantly, the principle of equality was embedded in the political institutions. There was a harmony between the form of the political institutions and the predominant values of the society. On the left are the Greek equivalents of the 5 values that guided Athenian democracy. On the right, their English equivalents. With regard to equality, the first value is equality of political rights, one person, one vote, with each having an equal share. The second value is the equality of speech. Each citizen had the right to address the assembly. The third value is the equality of political power. Citizens were willing and able to rule and be ruled. The fourth value was equality at birth. No additional rights were granted as a birthright. And finally, the fifth value, all Athenian citizens were equal before the law. As with all good things, the golden age of Athens came to an end. Here we see Athens under siege. The city-state was finally conquered by Philip of Macedonia. Apart from Athens, life could be characterized as being nasty, brutish, and short. Governance was of divine rule, military force, or a combination thereof. This quality of life continued until the Renaissance, when the ancient texts were rediscovered and the culture and learning from the classical period began to spread across Western Europe. With the invention of movable type and the printing press, ideas began to spread like never before, eventually penetrating the masses. Indeed, the dissemination of ideas empowered the masses, enabling them to escape the domination of the few, culminating in the French Revolution. The French Revolution is extremely important because it is here the concept of democracy re-enters the consciousness of Western civilization, and this time with a positive connotation. The principles of equality that we found in Athenian democracy are recast in the famous dictum of liberté, égalité et fraternité. On the left, we see Philip Buonarroti, the Italian expatriate who participated in the French Revolution and wrote an important treatise in which he recognized that at the heart of the revolution there was a conflict between two different orders, the order of equality and the order of privilege. As Buonarroti correctly identified, the conflict between the two orders would lead to a perpetual tug-of-war over the rules of the socio-economic game once democracy was established as the only legitimate form of political rule. For that to occur, humanity would have to engage in a long, bloody struggle between the 4 major ideologies of the 20th century: fascism, capitalism, communism, and socialism. By the end of the 20th century, democracy triumphs as marked by the fall of the Berlin Wall. After the end of the Second World War, democracy, as led by the order of equality, flourishes. Civil rights are restored, the median wage doubles, and unprecedented social programs are put into place. Democracy then spreads around the world as former imperialistic empires and the satellite states of the former Soviet Union gain their independence and opt for democratic rule. As can be seen on the map, the light blue countries are those that are more democratic. However, the marriage between corporate capitalism and representative democracy does not mean that the order of equality has won the day. As the late Australian sociologist Alex Carey states, the 20th century has been characterized by three developments of great political importance: the growth of democracy, the growth of corporate power, and the growth of corporate propaganda as a means of protecting corporate power against democracy. Only in appearance does the order of privilege accept the legitimacy of democracy. In reality, as portrayed by the film The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader's evil henchmen, Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, are elected months before and after the film's 1979 release. Essentially, what they set out to do is to re-establish the predominance of privilege. At an institutional level, they set out to create an uneven playing field tilted in their favor. At the level of the imagination, the concept of the economy replaces the nation, and the myth is propagated that all boats rise on the same tide. With the advances in information and communications technology, territorial control can be circumvented by moving money, people, and ideas around the globe in a worldwide shell game to maximize profits. Trade agreements like NAFTA and the GATT, as well as the creation of the World Bank and the IMF, move important economic decisions offshore. And as could be expected, the order of privileges uses the courts to gain advantage. Corporate personhood, a right for corporations to be treated as if they were human, which dates back to the 19th century U.S. Supreme Court decision of Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad, is to be exploited. A century later, in the infamous Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, the U.S. Supreme Court decides that corporations do indeed have the First Amendment right of freedom of speech, which means that they can spend unlimited amounts of money during electoral campaigns in support of their favored candidates. Voila, the preferred social order, corporate plutocracy. In short, a hereditary aristocracy is replaced by a corporate elite. Since democracy is founded on the principle of equality, it is from its traditional meaning that we should look for an appropriate response. According to British political scientist John Donne, what the term means is that the people hold power and exercise rule. This is what the term meant in Athens, where the claim bore some relation to the truth. That is what it means today, when it appears to be a thumping falsehood, a bare-faced lie. Indeed, what we have today is a faux democracy. And as Canadian political scientist Henry Milner tells us, when every vote counts, and counts equally, politics is much more a reflection of the priorities of the population. In a faux democracy, inequality is widespread. The super-rich capture a disproportional share of the society's wealth. To maintain the order of privilege, the current economic situation must remain in place, even if this means environmental suicide. To escape the widespread inequality found in the faux democracy, we need to fight back and make each and every vote count. This brings us to the end of the historical context surrounding the Quebec Charter Challenge, which has as its objective to make each and every vote count and count equally. For more information, or to make a donation, I invite you to visit our website. To learn more about the legal arguments, I invite you to view our video, The Quebec Charter Challenge. Thank you for watching.